Well, that reveal was kind of a letdown. I'll be perfectly honest. Shide is the founder of the Hishikata Clinic. Okay, like I was expecting something so much more cooler around Shide, and okay, I mean it makes sense the idea that it's like the first child that Heine had. That means that it's been around for a long time. That means it's probably figured out how to control its body, like its shadow self, to consume its fleshly self, kind of thing. But I don't know. I was kind of just hoping it would be something a little more exciting. Now, granted, there's two sides of it. One's the aspect of I was kind of hoping it would be some sort of alien being or maybe a deity or something like that, which would give it its form, having multiple arms. I mean, we know it to what, six, eight legs at some point, and not that I want it to be aliens. I didn't want the alien route, but at the same time, I was kind of hoping to have some sort of explanation as to I don't know why it would have that particular form, something different. But again, I think it's just going to lie into the idea of he's been around for a long time, so he knows how to control himself, make himself bigger, make himself grandier. But anyways, that again, that was kind of a huge letdown. I mean, the reveal that the parents obviously knew and were going to reveal the secrets, that I'm okay with that. I didn't really want it to turn into a thing where, yes, his parents are Shide or something dumb like that. Everything kind of makes sense to the logic of the world. So don't get me wrong. It's just I was kind of expecting something a little more, but that aside, yes, pretty basic episode, honestly. I mean, how are you gonna top up episode 15? I mean, honestly, I mean, as I was watching episode 16, I'm going, calm down. Episode 15 was amazing. Let's settle down a little bit. I mean, we did have some reveals this episode, but nothing really to what I was hoping for. Like, I mean, specifically around Shide, wanting that to be a little more grand. Specifically around Hishikata, I was hoping that would be... I honestly was hoping there would be a little bit of redemption around Hishikata. Honestly, I really was hoping that his whole moral standing would be to something positive. I wanted to stop Heine. Something like that. Not literally, I wanted to go off to never... It's really going the route of the guy seeking immortality. Let's be perfectly honest. That's what Hishikata was searching for, was immortality. I will live on forever with my family, and it's all about me. It's all about my wife. It doesn't seem like he has any care whatsoever to his children. Maybe you can chop that up as that he assumes that the children will turn to shadows anyways and follow him anyways. So these fleshly forms are useless. Who cares? But even still, to the end, knowing that he cannot be basically taken a picture of, he's still kind of stuck on it. And that's, again, frustrating. Very, very frustrating. I was really hoping there would be something else there with Hishikata, and it just wasn't, which is fine. What they gave us is plenty. I was just trying to blow it up into something a little bit more moral standing, a little bit more in the realms of something that wasn't just, I want immortality. I mean, that's a very strong driving force for us as mortals. I mean, that's obviously the pinnacle of science, is seeking immortality, and the rich. But that's obviously what we're seeking. And the idea of mortality is scary. So it makes sense that somebody's older, somebody that's losing family, they would desire that. But yeah, going through the episode real quickly to kind of hit each point, we had obviously the very opening of this segment. We have, yes, the meeting with Mio, the Shadow Mio specifically. Honestly, Shadow Mio is interesting because Shadow Mio has always been driven by what she's supposed to do, the order she was given, and then always secondary is the actual Mio. Of all the Shadow clones, honestly, Shadow Mio is the least of, like, her actual self. Like, she's the worst at hiding who she is. She's always very quiet. She's always very stone-faced as compared to the original self. And so, honestly, anytime you do see Shadow Mio, she doesn't really act like Mio. So she's kind of an oddity. And I guess that makes sense to, I guess, what her actual creation was. She doesn't know much about what her actual driving force is. The instincts, the basic instincts of a shadow is to take down their original so that they can live on. But she doesn't really seem like she cares. Like, I don't really think I have that. Like, she's not concerned by that. She doesn't care anymore. And that might be because she's been disconnected from Heine. But Heine has always ordered her, find the traitor. It's never been trying to find Mio. It does get into the idea that, yes, she did. She was first created by Heine taking a picture of Mio at the wake, which doesn't make sense to me because I thought I guess that could have been the funeral. Like when Shinpei first arrives, he's greeted by the original Mio. She comes down. They go up and they go to the house, and then they go to, I guess that was the funeral, wasn't the wake. Wakes are typically when everybody kind of joins together and basically looks over the body that's in the casket. That's typically a wake. But the wake could have been done the day before at their actual house, and this is the actual funeral, which I think that's probably the case. So basically before this, that's when Shadow Mio was made. She cut the brakes. She said that it was all in order to see. She didn't care if it killed the original. She was just trying to at least injure her. That way she would be at Hishikata Clinic, and then they can take care of her later. But it seems like her driving force has always been the command of Heine to find the traitor. But it was cute because, like I said, despite the fact that she's always like stone-faced, again, it has that other side where the instincts of the original come out. Her desire for Shinpei. And that's like the rest of this has pretty much been where, yes, she's apologizing to Shinpei for not being able to give him as much information as that she would hope to. She wants to help Shinpei. And this kind of transition to the scene where they decide to go to Hishikata Clinic, and you have Mio, the Shadow Mio, confronting Shinpei like, okay, well, protect Mio. And she's like, okay, then she starts to dig into Shinpei, like, who do you like? Did you go find a girlfriend over in Tokyo? And he's like, no, I just changed my way of speaking because nobody knows how that speak pattern. I mean, she's assuming because he's speaking with their dialect that he obviously found a girlfriend. And yeah, it does look like she was gonna go to actually question her about his feelings for Mio, which is throwing off the original, which I thought was absolutely cool. Like all of her, it seems like the Shadow Mio just thinks differently than the original. And she's a lot more forward, and she's willing to actually get in there and ask. And then later on having this segment where, yes, Shinpei says, if you don't believe that I trust you now, take my data, like take a snapshot of me. And she's like, no, I don't want to see what's in your heart. Like I think even the Shadow herself knows that Shinpei doesn't really love her. And she doesn't want to know that. Yeah, she said something to the effect of, do you know why I don't call you Big Brother anymore? Again, she's trying to break that familial bond to a relationship. But after this, they go to the clinic. Everything's kind of disappeared. Like everything has been erased. I was kind of assuming that this was an aspect of, yes, something could have been eating, or an aspect that he believed that they were going to go off to this other paradise they talk about later. And so he wanted all their family belongings to go with them. So they wanted to consume it all so they can recreate it all in the other world, which they never really touched on. I was kind of curious about that. I mean, obviously everybody was assuming it's because he's trying to erase all information that could possibly be used against them. But why would you care? If you're planning on going to this other world, why would you care that people find out information? But again, that goes to the idea that Hishikata was seen as a threat at this point, and technically Heine wanted to get rid of him. And so this is like them trying to scrub any existence of him so that Shinpei doesn't have any information to work with. There was obviously a gunfight, and we see later on Negoro had a gunshot in her chest, so I'm assuming she got shot during whatever struggle happened up there. Yeah, they go downstairs, they end up finding Mother choking Hishikata, and they go to stop her. Ushio erases whatever connection that she had to Heine. And yeah, this is where it starts getting really frustrating because it seems like Hishikata is dead set, Tokiko, kill them all. Toko's like, no, I'm not going to do that because whatever you think Heine is going to do for you, she's not going to do for you. And he's like, well, no, Heine is trying to get rid of me because obviously she doesn't want Shinpei to get information from me. So if I can get rid of all you, I can regain the trust of Heine. And yeah, Tokoko's like, no, that's not going to happen. And he even grabs the gun and shoots Tokiko, which we kind of find out is actually Shadow Mio. I'm sorry, that was convenient. Very, very convenient how Shinpei knew to have Tokiko come down there as a shadow. I am overthinking it. It would just seem very, very convenient that they knew that Tokiko was going to get shot just for a fake out. I thought that was a little bit cheesy by the writer. But yeah, this is where Hishikata learns that he had a shadow made of him before, and so he cannot be copied. He cannot be created into a shadow. Thus, all this plan of him being able to go off into paradise for eternity with everybody else is gone. Yes, his wife is a shadow, but he will never be a shadow because whatever copied him before, and obviously he's still alive, so that shadow copy is done. Hishikata cannot go off into this paradise. They're really starting to point this entire thing. I mean, we've gotten hints over time about this idea that, I mean, especially from Shiori's words as Heine, keep mentioning this idea that I don't want to be erased, I don't want to die, because I'm looking forward to that moment that I can take my family and go off to somewhere together with them. Like, Heine, as Shiori, has been desiring for this family, probably this family she lost before. She's talked about the fact that Her parents came back from these fishing trips. They didn't have any food. They all starved to death. So Heine herself, even as Shiori, has discovered family again, and she wants to create this family that then she can go off to this paradise with, this other world where they can live on forever. And it seems like that desire, maybe through Shide, maybe passed down to Hishikata, he desires to do that too. And again, as a person of science and desiring that moment that they can create their own immortality and bring his entire family with him to this paradise. So when Shadow Mio tries to take a snapshot of his data and get information from him, and he discovers that he can't be a shadow, that pretty much breaks him. Like, he's pretty much done at this point. Yeah, that's when Negoro shows up, and she's got Ushio's body, trying to taunt them, gives a message to Hishikata that they served us well, but don't need you anymore, tells Shinpei that he's a cockroach, and it's going to all end in 2 days anyway, so it doesn't matter. So it does seem like, despite my thoughts last episode that Heine has been backed up into a corner, it does seem like, despite the fact that she's done all this stuff, used all this energy, she's still got, like, this is the date that whatever is going to happen is going to happen. Like, I'm going to be able to have the power I need to do this, which technically does apply to the festival. Unless they can stop everybody from going to the festival, which will all feed to Heine, it's going to happen. That's the date of this big, great feast, basically, for her. During this, we did have a little brief scene of Tokigo, and Mio's asking, like, why were you okay with them making a copy of you? Like they see everything, and she's like, yeah, I'm kind of fine with them seeing everything now. Like, I thought, like, legit right here, Tokiko was just gonna jump on Mio and just be like, I'm done hiding. Like, she's like, I want to put everything out there. I'm tired of hiding things. But yeah, the next scene is where we kind of get the reveals on everything about, you know, Heine wanting to go to this other world and live on forever with this family. And again, what Hishikata himself was kind of desiring. And yes, getting the mother completely caught up on everything, because it seems like she didn't have any information about how she was born. She's always thought that she's an actual human. She didn't know that the original self died, that she was born from this original. She just thought that she was the original. Technically, the original was taken out of, so she's able to live on. This is a really good scene, though, because I really liked how she's angry, obviously, that Hishikata was doing all of this. Like, you're being a terrible person all for the sake of me, but at the same time, she's thankful to him. Yes, he does confirm the idea that there is this other world, this place that's beyond the vast seas that Heine is trying to get to, and the only way she can do that is if her full power is restored. And again, the assumption here is that the festival consuming pretty much all the township is going to give her that power she needs, which is probably the whole aspect of the shadows stretching out, like, beyond the island and everything, which we don't really get to see very far of. Yeah, and this is where we get Hishikata pretty much revealing what's in the safe. This safe apparently has a list of everybody's names in it. This is the part, I maybe they'll eventually get into this whole thing, but this part didn't really make much sense to me. Maybe it was just documentation that he kept at the clinic, but he just basically has a list of all the villagers, and he's diagnosed them all with this disease, this illness, the shadow sickness. And he just says, oh yeah, and it's also a list of food for Heine. And it's like, well, that doesn't make any sense. I don't really understand, unless the list is people that have had their image taken, and so he keeps track of them for some reason. I just don't know why this, unless this was the excuse that he needed to diagnose them and keep the documentation for his own clinic to not be illegal to standards of Japan or whatever. And then equally, these are people that upon their passing, he's able to give off to Heine. I don't think there's really a restriction for what he can give to Heine. I think she can consume them all. So I don't really know why the list. I don't understand what was the purpose of going, oh, here's a list of everybody. They all had this sickness and I fed them all, except just for him to have an excuse to bring up, oh yeah, by the way, Shinpei, your parents too. Your parents knew what was going on. They tried to reveal the secret. So this whole boat incident wasn't a thing. We just got rid of them to feed them to Heine to cover it up. But yeah, that's the big shrug reveal. That, oh yeah, who is Shide? Because Shide was the one that killed Shinpei's parents. And so they're like, well, who is Shide? And he's like, oh, that's Hishikata Shidehiko, which is the original founder of the Hishikata Clinic, my ancestor, so to speak, and shrug. It's like, I was like, a shrug, okay, that's not very interesting. Wasn't as interesting as I was hoping it to be. But again, it does emphasize on how long this dude's been around, but at the same time, very shrug. I don't know, there's a possibility that more than, I mean, the idea of having multiple arms could also not just be controlling the shadow itself to produce more arms, which again, technically he's been making more, but just based on the 4 arms, maybe that there's another person inside there. I doubt it, like I said, because he's still creating arms even as he's fighting. So I don't think the arms is an indication of how many people are inside of it. Unless, yes, there's like 8 people in there, and that's why he's able to create so many darn arms. But yeah, like I said, overall, it was okay episode. Some decent reveals. We finally have gotten all the Hishikata stuff out of the way, despite, you know, the founders. Obviously, probably gonna still be a story beat, but I was kind of hoping a little bit more was gonna be there. We technically still have to get into Katakiri. I was assuming Katakiri was gonna be Shide, but we still have Katakiri to get into. We have Heine's past to get into. How Heine is connected to Hiroko. They keep saying Heine, so I'm assuming they're not going to... I thought that they established that Hiroko is Heine, but maybe at this point, we're just going to assume that it's Heine, because she was the first self that Hiroko made, I guess. Good episode, though. We got Mios, and that was a lot of fun. I was kind of excited to see this whole chemistry with having 2 Mios, again, and that really kind of manifests in Shadow Mio really pushing out all the things that the original Mio doesn't want to say out loud because she obviously likes Shinpei. So we can now replace my best girl of Ushio's with Mio's. Because Shadow Mio kicks butt. I guess technically Shadow Ushio does as well, but those sisters are both pretty much kick a lot of butt. So anyhow, that's my thoughts on Summertime Rendering episode 16. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. As always, if you did, make sure to hit that like button down below. Comment, let me know if I missed anything. In addition, if you've not already, make sure to hit that subscribe button down below so you get all my content. I do news, reviews, first impressions. If it's anime, it's pretty much here. Additionally, if you want to support the channel more, we have a Patreon link, a tips link, and a super thanks button down below. I definitely appreciate everybody does, and y'all take care.